content of this vlog will provide the necessary information, especially will guide you how to make a quantitative research. All of the information get on Google, internet, and based from your learning and study. Research work is one of the curriculum guide of K-12 program. Pero, bago ang lahat, gusto ko munang mag-subscribe ka sa aking YouTube channel para maging update ka sa mga susunod na video. Here are the parts of the Chapter 1, Introduction, Background of Study, Statement of the Problem, Significance of Study, Scope and Delimitation. Background of your study that have a connection to your chosen topic. The first one, you have introductory paragraph or short catchy or the quotation that have a connection to your chosen topic. When you write an introductory paragraph, do not forget to write the author, place, where and he live, publish year, and other important details or information from the author. Second one, you should have a gap of your study. But the question is, what is the gap? Gap, that is the main reason why you conduct and study your chosen topic, or in the same word, why do you want to study your chosen topic? Here the example of the gap. We study this research because it is not yet conducted here in Panlaytan National High School, and also we want to implement this research because it's more interesting and also contemporary issue. Statement of the problem are stating the specific questions. For example, it seeks to answer the two questions below. First, what is the attendance of the respondents? Second, what is the academic performance of the respondent? The significance of the study. Who is the beneficiaries of your research? Example, the beneficiaries in our research are the following persons below: to the teacher, to the respondents, to the parents, to the adhere, and etc. But take note, the beneficials to your research it depends upon to your chosen topic or the issue of your research. The scope and delimitation. This included the duration of your research with exact date and time, and also where and when conducted your research, especially how many respondents you get with specific necessary informations. Here the parts of the Chapter 2, the review of related literature, theoretical framework, review of relevant studies, conceptual framework, research hypothesis, definition of term. The theoretical framework. First, you should have an introductory paragraph. Example of introductory paragraph. The following literature had helped in the conceptualization of the present study, particularly the relationship between students' number of absences and students' academic performance. Relationship between students' number of absences and academic performance, that is the example of your research title. First, you have literature of the first variable. Second, literature of the second variable. Let's have an example. The chosen topic of your research is the relationship between students' number of absences and students' academic performance. First variable to your chosen topic, students' number of absences. Variable of your chosen topic is students' academic performance. But take note, your literature about the two variables of your research must be short, paraphrase, can be old with proper citation, integral or non-integral. Example, according to, and also do not forget to apply the transitional devices of the first line of each paragraph. Review of relevant studies. Your review of relevant studies maybe you can find on Google, internet, and library. And make sure if you find your review of relevant studies, it have a connection to your chosen topic. Content of review of relevant studies, we have the author, title, year, SOP, or the statement of the problem, method design, findings, summary, conclusions, recommendations, and closing paragraph. In finding your relevant studies, make sure don't forget to write the source of information. The conceptual framework. In making of your conceptual framework, the first one, you should have a definition of framework. The second one, you should have an adapted framework. And the third one, you should have cite RRS, a review of relevant studies with the same framework. And the last one, you should have a research paradigm, the flow of your two variables based from your study. Research hypothesis. We have two types of hypothesis. The first one, we have the null hypothesis, it means empty. The second one, the alternative hypothesis, it means have. Here the example. The null hypothesis, there is no sufficient evidence the relationship between students' number of absences and academic performance. The alternative hypothesis, there is no sufficient evidence the relationship between students' number of absences and academic performance. But take note, your hypothesis is based from the findings or the result of your research. It's either failed to reject the null hypothesis or reject the alternative hypothesis. Definition of terms. In making a definition of terms, the first one, define the important things in the study. The second one, define terms operationally. But take note, on the definition of terms, the word you defined are always uses on your research. Then the meaning of each word not found on the dictionary, internet, Google, or anything materials, but they found on the content of your research, on how you use the word operationally, or in the same word, you describe the word on how you use or what is the uses of the word on your research, and also it is an alphabetical order. Example, collaborative learning, an educational approach. Here are the parts of methodology. Chapter 3, the methodology, research design, population and sample, instrumentation, data gathering procedure, statistical treatment or data analysis. The research design. The research design refers to the overall strategy that you choose to integrate the different components of the study in a coherent and logical way, thereby ensuring you will effectively address the research problem. It constitutes the blueprint for the collection, measurement, and analysis of data. A research design is the set of methods and procedures used in collecting and analyzing measures of the variables specified in a problem of research. Population and sample. A sample is a random selection of members of a population. It is a smaller group drawn from the population that has the characteristics of the entire population. The observations and conclusions made against the sample data are attributed to the population. Here, the formula of simple random sampling. Sample equals to population and 1 plus marginal of error. A description. Small n is a sample and the bigger n is a population, and NA equals to marginal of error. Remember, the lower of margin of error, the highest of sample, or vice versa. What is the instrumentation in a research? Instrumentation refers to the tools or means by which investigators attempt to measure variables or items of interest in the data collection process. Instrumentation is the use of or work completed by plan. Instruments is also a specific term with respect to internal validity in research. Applied questionnaire, interview, and observations. 2. Survey questionnaires, focus group discussion, interview, and observations. 3. Case study, questionnaire, interview, focus group discussion, and observations. 4. Ethnographic, example, correlational research. 5. Historical. 6. Evaluation. 7. Pure science. 8. Action. Of gathering and measuring information on variables of interest in an established systematic fashion that enables one to answer state research questions, test hypotheses, and evaluate outcomes. Here the top 6 data collection methods. 1. Interviews. 2. Questionnaires and survey on how you process. 3. Observations. 4. Documents and records such as the letter or the approval in conducting your research. 5. Focus group. And 6. Oral histories. What is statistical treatment of data research? The term statistical term is a catch-all term which means to apply any statistical method to your data. Treatments are divided into two groups, descriptive statistics and inferential statistics, which make predictions and test hypotheses about your data. Here the parts of the Chapter 4, the presentation of the gathered data, age interpretation, gender interpretation, the result of each questions by using of any kind of graph. What is the Chapter 4 in your research? The Chapter 4 is comprised of the following content: age interpretation, gender interpretation, and the result of each questions, or the result or findings on the data collected and analyzed, result of descriptive analysis, result of inferential analysis, of quantitative. The purpose of this chapter is to summarize the collected data and the statistical treatment and/or mechanics of analysis. The first paragraph should briefly restate the particular problem. How do you present your Chapter 4 in your research? The first one, informative. Give an informative presentation, brief and to the point. Second one, instructional. Your purpose and instructional presentation is to give specific directions or orders. The third one, arousing. Your purpose is in arousing. The presentation is to make people think about a certain problem or situation. And the last one, persuasive. The parts of the Chapter 5, the summary, conclusion, recommendation, and the references. A research summary is a professional piece of writing that describes your research to some prospective audience. Mainly priority of a research summary is to provide the reader with a brief overview of the whole study. We bring to you a perfect research summary writing service. A summary begins with an introductory sentence that states the text title, author, and main purpose, points of the text, you see it. A summary is a writing in your own words. A summary contains only the ideas of the original text. Do not insert any of your own opinions, interpretations, deductions, or comments into a summary. The conclusion is intended to help the reader to understand why your research should matter to them after they have finished reading the paper. A conclusion is not merely a summary of your points or a restatement of your research problem, but a synthesis of key points. Conclusion in your research. All of the conclusion in your research need is 3 or 4 strong sentences which do not need to follow any set of formula. Simply review the main points, being careful and not to restate them exactly or briefly. Describe your feelings about the topic. Even an anecdote can end your essay in an useful way. How do you write a conclusion? You can use the following expressions: to sum up, in summary, to conclude, and closing. Finally, it may be concluded. To summarize, all in all, overall, it may be said. What is the recommendation in your research? The recommendation paper can be defined as a critical suggestion regarding the best course of action in a certain situation, clearly in order to conduct such as a research. For the first line in the dissertation, the researchers can state a personal opinion when the collected data support it. Recommendation, this can take two forms: recommendation for further study and recommendation for change, or both. Each recommendations should trace directly to a conclusions. Considering to make a recommendation, be written to relate directly to the aims of the project as stated in the introduction. Indicate the extent to which the aims have been achieved. Summarize the key findings, outcomes, or information in your report. Acknowledge limitations and make recommendations for future work where applicable. What is a references in your research? A references lists only the source you refer to any your writing. A bibliography is different from a reference list as it lists all the sources used during your research and background, reading not just once you refer to in your writing. How do you write a research reference? Ensure you use the correct data depending on the version of the book you have are citing in your research work. The first one, you should have author, editor. If it is an editor, always put ed. Title, this should be in italicized. Reader version. Edition, if not the first edition. Place of publication, where available. Publish, year of publication.